Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, verses 6 to 17. That is Dhruva Maharaj's prayers to Lord Krishna. And today in BhagavatSanga program, our dear Kirtan is our youth devotee, wonderful devotee, very knowledgeable in our sastras. So he's going to give presentation. So with that, Kirtan, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ru. Hare Krishna devotees, let me set up my pointer. So today we'll go over 3 different ways of looking at the Canto 4. And the verses that we are going through, we'll look at it first in how it's interpreted, or how the original way to look at it is. And then we'll also look at how we can read through it in a practical application point of view. So many of the realizations that I've written down, and I've also given a more accurate count of how it's described in the Bhagavatam. So without further ado, let's get started. So we'll start with text 6. I'll read just the translation so we can save time and have more time for discussion. And we'll go ahead. So text number 6. Dhruva Maharaj said, "My dear Lord, you are all-powerful. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses, my hands, legs, ears, touch, sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer a respectful obeisances unto you." So here, what Dhruva Maharaj is trying to show for us is, Dhruva Maharaj is showing to us is that the first way to greet the Lord or accept the Lord into our lives is to use all our senses in his service. So because Dhruva Maharaj is in the body of such a young soul, he's still a prince, the way he's trying to give us advice is by showing through his actions. That way people take this seriously and understand how to properly serve the Lord. So the first verse number 6, we can see that all senses should be used for the Lord. Text number 7, translation. My Lord, you are the Supreme One, but by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual and material world. You create the total energy of the material world by your external potency. And after creation, you enter within the material world as a super soul. You are the Supreme Person, and as though you are temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation, just as fire entering into wood of different shapes burn brilliantly in different varieties. So this verse gives us a next step understanding after the senses. So now that we are using the senses for the Lord, or at least attempting to, we should understand that what we take in from the world, suppose the smell of flowers or the sight of something beautiful, is all also energies of Krishna. So one way that this translation explains and the verse explains to understand this is that as a fire burns different types of material, it either burns brighter, hotter, colder, or with different colors, but the origin of the fire is the same potency. Text number 8. O my master, Lord Brahma is fully surrendered unto you. In the beginning, you gave him knowledge, and thus he could see and understand the entire universe. Just as a person awakes from his sleep and visualizes his immediate duties, you are the only shelter of all persons who desire liberation. And you are the friend of all who are distressed. However, therefore, can a learned person who has perfect knowledge ever forget you? So this is an interesting verse, one of my favorite parts in this 6 to 9, because we can see that the most powerful person in the universe is Lord Brahma. So this is another way that Dhruva Maharaj is showing us that power does not change what position you have in the world. So whatever you might own, whoever you might control, or whatever experiences you might have, surrendering unto the Lord is the same for a pauper and for anyone with rich, like with money. So what we can see is that not only is Dhruva Maharaj surrendering himself unto the Lord, but he's also showing that Lord Brahma, who he's giving more power than himself, is surrendering unto the Lord. Therefore, we should also surrender unto the Lord. One line that I liked here is that it says, "You are the friend of all of who are distressed." So if we can keep this in mind, we'll come back to this line later on. So text number 9. Persons who worship you simply for sense gratification of this bag of skin are certainly influenced by your illusory energy. In spite of having you, who are like a desire tree and are the cause of liberation from birth and death, foolish persons such as me desire benedictions from you for sense gratifications, which is available even for those who live in hellish conditions. So this is one thing that we learn in our material day-to-day life school or even college, is that why aim for less? So one thing that we hear repeatedly in Krishna consciousness and ISKCON is that Krishna always knows best, or Krishna always knows the best thing for you, or devotees always know best for you. But it's really hard to apply that to your life. It's really hard to not wish for things. So sometimes I wish I had this. I wish I got into this school. I wish I studied this, stuff like that. But why aim for less? So if we wish for something and give it and ask Krishna for it, it's not that we won't get it. It's that we could have gotten better. So of course, Krishna will give us what's best for us. That's a simple way of looking at it. But an even deeper understanding is that Krishna knows that what we wish might not be the best for us. So by putting our desires and putting our material constraints on certain things, we are actually getting less than we bargained for. The second part of this analysis is when praying to Krishna, why are we looking to gain something? So the second we look to get something out of it materially, then we lose all power. So as we saw in the previous verse, it says, "You are the friend of all who are distressed." So distress could mean that you are in pain, or if you lost someone or you lost something and you missed an opportunity. But distress can also mean someone who's missing something that they don't even know. So sometimes when in classes we hear devotees say, I feel bad for people that don't know Krishna. Like if they were exposed to it, they would enjoy it. But because they don't know about it, they're not able to enjoy it. So in the same way, we are limiting ourselves by asking for material desires or any desires in general. So even spiritually, as long as we just surrender to Krishna, there's no need for elaborate desires or elaborate requests. Text 10 through 13. These verses were a little more towards the storyline of the Bhagavatam, and they were developing what they're trying to show us, what Dhruva Maharaj is experiencing. So there was less of a realization that I put down, but more of an analysis of what I read. So text number 10. My Lord, the transcendental bliss derived from meditating upon you, your lotus feet, or hearing about you, hearing about your glories from pure devotees is so unlimited that it is far beyond for the stages of Brahmanda, wherein one thinks of himself merged in the impersonal Brahman as one with the Supreme. Since Brahmanda is also defeated by the transcendental bliss derived from devotional service, then what to speak of the temporary blissfulness of elevating oneself to the heavenly planets, which is ended by the separating sword of time. Although one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, he falls down in due course of time. This verse is, again, moving to the next level. So the first few verses, 6 through 9, were talking about how we can see ourselves and what experiences we have for ourselves in the senses. So how to use our senses in Krishna and how to use our experiences towards Krishna. but this is answering the question that why don't we just try for liberation? Because it's the same as material happiness, but you have it for longer. So liberation in this verse is described as Brahmanda realization, which are like rays of the sun. So this is more of a, this Krishna consciousness is not what we are trying to achieve. So if we achieve this liberation, we are just merging with the Lord or merging with his effulgence, which is very unnatural. So even though it is proper, it is not the ultimate form of Krishna consciousness. So it's not seeing Krishna as a person, which is wrong. So the reason why we don't want liberation or we don't want to merge with the Lord is that it's not something that is productive. So even though we will be there for a due course of time, maybe millions and millions of years, eventually, because we're not doing anything, we're not serving the Lord or serving his devotees, where we'll come back to the material planets. So even though that is heavenly planets, or even if it's like we're the next Brahma, we still will not be where we want to be. So the verse number 10, the takeaway is liberation is unnatural and there's no personal relation. Text 11. Dhruva Maharaj continued, O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with your great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly. As the waves of a river constantly flow, such transcendental devotees are completely situated in an uncontained state of life. By the process of devotional service, I shall surely be able to cross the incessant ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing, fire-like dangers. It will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, which are eternally existent. I'm combining 11 and 12. Text 12. O Lord, who has a lotus, who have a lotus navel. If a person happens to associate with a devotee whose heart always hangs after your lotus feet, seeking always their fragrance, he's never attached to the material body or in a bodily relationship, to offspring, friends, home, wealth, and wife, which are very, very dear to a materialistic person. Indeed, he does not care for them. So these two verses are pretty heavy if you look at the plain understanding. So to put it to someone who is ready to hear the truth, you should leave your wife, you should leave your kids. That's what Krishna is seeming to say here. So one way to understand this is that personal relation with the Lord is rare, but it's the best way to get close to him. So what text 11 is saying is that if we don't practice engaging with other devotees, we will not be able to act upon engaging with the Lord. So because devotees are like specks of Krishna and are qualitatively similar to Krishna, or qualitatively one with Krishna, if we do not practice associating with them, and if we don't know how to associate with them, we won't be able to perform when we're asked to associate with Krishna. That's text 11. And text 12, Krishna is telling us that if our relations with our offspring, with our wife, with our friends, husband, our home, our wealth are all unnatural and not in a spiritual mindset, they're not real relations and they're just material belongings. So if you're not connected to someone on a spiritual level, you just have a plastic relation with them. So one way that people argue against Krishna consciousness is that I want to care for my family, I want to spend time with them, and I want to provide for them. As Srila Gurudev says, providing for a family isn't just in this lifetime. Like you can materially provide for your family if you just accrue wealth for them and accrue nice cars, houses. But to actually provide for a family is to make sure that they'll always be taken care of, and which is helping them and helping yourself serve Krishna. So looking at both of these verses in a helicopter point of view, we can see that Krishna is not telling us to sever our relations, but to strengthen them through Krishna consciousness. So any relation that is not through the fundamentals of Krishna consciousness and is just through acting and just through material personas is a relationship that is meant to end. So if you're having a relationship without the goal of making it eternal, you're just having the relationship for it to end. So if you have friends, if you have family, and you're not putting Krishna in the relationship, so your relationship is without Krishna, you're just creating something that is guaranteed to end. But if you include Krishna in your relationship and your foundation is something eternal, then you never have to leave that. Text 13. My dear Lord, O Supreme Unborn, I know that the different varieties of living entities, such as animals, trees, birds, reptiles, demigods, and human beings, are spread throughout the universe, which is caused by the total material energy. And I know that as they are sometimes manifest and sometimes unmanifest, but I have never experienced the supreme form I behold as I see you now. Now, all kinds of methods of theorizing have come to an end. So this is also an interesting verse because when we try to understand the Lord or understand any of his many potencies, it's actually unimaginable. If you have to think of something that is existent both in time and without time, our brains are just not capable of understanding it. So there are some people that have the ability to theorize Krishna and theorize all entities and how they come to existence. But here Krishna is saying that as long as we rely on Krishna and see that what his energy is and how we can connect to his energy, there's no need to try to fathom what his master plan is. So what this is saying is that even though we're not able to understand who Krishna is right now, if we can understand his energies, we can understand who he is eventually. Text 14. My dear Lord, at the end of each millennium, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, dissolves everything manifested within the universe into his belly. He lies down on the lap of Seshanaga. From his navel sprouts a golden lotus flower on a stem. And on that lotus, Brahma is created. I can understand that you are the same Supreme Godhead. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. This verse is again describing what Dhruva Maharaj is saying to the Lord. And although there is no realization I could come up with for this text, what notes I did write down was that Krishna is giving Dhruva Maharaj the all this knowledge that he's currently telling him. So even though Dhruva Maharaj, he's a young boy and he's unable to put into words what is happening, because Lord Krishna is giving him the ability to say what he has in his mind, Lord Dhruva Maharaj is able to express that Lord Brahma, even though he is so great, is still a servitor of Lord Krishna. Text 15. My Lord, by your unbroken transcendental glance, you are the supreme witness of all stages of intellectual activities. You are eternally liberated. Your existence is situated in pure goodness, and you are existent in the supersoul without change. You are the original personality of Godhead, full of 6 opulences, and you are eternally the master of all 3 modes of material nature. Thus, you are always different from the ordinary living entities. As Lord Vishnu, you maintain all affairs of the entire universe, and yet you stand aloof and are the enjoyer of the result of all sacrifices. So text 15 again gives us an insight on the power of Krishna. It is more of a relay to text 13, where Dhruva Maharaj tells us that even though we're not able to fathom Krishna. If we fathom his power, we're able to understand him in eternity. So entirety, sorry. So here it says, you maintain all affairs of the entire universe, and yet you stand aloof and are the enjoyer of these results of all sacrifices. So again, if we look at this with a standing view, we can see that Krishna is weak, and he's just enjoying all these sacrifices, and he's not sure how he's maintaining it. But again, if we look at it from the helicopter point of view, where we're supposed to see, we can understand that even though Krishna has the power to maintain the whole universe and all of creation, he also has the power to enjoy it at the same time. So one way to relate this in the material world is how much the common consensus is that the more money you have, the more problems you have. So although not everyone will agree with this, I think that one way to understand this is your power isn't in how much money you have, but in the ability of how you can use it. So here, Krishna has all the power in the universe and also is able to enjoy it at the same time. Sorry, let me move this. Text 16. My dear Lord, in your impersonal manifestation of Brahman, there are always two opposing elements, knowledge and ignorance. Your multi-energies are continually manifest, but the impersonal Brahman, which is undivided, original, changeless, unlimited, and blissful, is the cause of the material manifestation. Because you are the same impersonal Brahman, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Text 17. My Lord, O Supreme Lord, you are the supreme personified form of all benedictions. Therefore, for one who abides in your devotional service with no other desire, worshipping your lotus feet is better than becoming king and lording it over a kingdom. That is the benediction of worshipping your lotus feet. To ignorant devotees like me, you are the causeless, merciful maintainer, just like a cow who takes care of a newly born calf by supplying milk and giving it protection from attack. So one thing to note while we read these last two verses is to understand that Dhruva Maharaj is in line to become king. So Dhruva Maharaj is not someone who is lack of power, lack of fame, lack of money, but someone who has understood what real fame, real money, real experience is. So here we've established that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead and he is all powerful. But we are wondering, if I'm not supposed to pray for something, what should I hope for? So as we discussed in the previous verses, if we put our desires on a specific item or a specific feeling, then we're boxing ourselves into a cage. So what we should worship Krishna for or focus on during japa or focus on during anything is that we're able to worship Krishna's lotus feet with perfection. So if we're able to do that thoroughly and we're able to give that feeling of genuine happiness, then that is the supreme benediction. So that's where all other happiness comes from. So I have two more slides. First slide is what is happening in the content. So Dhruva Maharaj is in front of the Lord and he's in awe and also in realization that what he wanted versus the potential of what he could ask for. So the first point we should understand is that Dhruva Maharaj is in a state of complete bliss right now because he met the most powerful being in existence, which is Lord Krishna. And this is where we come down to the what he wanted versus the potential of what he could have asked for. The next point is that Dhruva Maharaj talks about how any form of liberation that isn't personal isn't perfect, since souls are made to have interaction. So there are many people that strive for Brahmanda realization because it is becoming quote unquote one with the Lord. But the reason that isn't perfect is because there is no personal relation. So it's just a show. So what to focus on is that there's a lot of storyline and events that are happening, but what we're here to understand is the realization. So the impersonal realization of our manifestation of Brahman is always with two opposing elements, knowledge and ignorance. So because of these multiple energies, there are always people that are going to strive for ignorance, or like strive for Brahman, etc. So these are my last 5 points for real world application, and how I've seen these personally, how I feel like we should, or I should apply these in my life. So first thing is, whatever you practice, you'll be able to apply. So whether that's materially for tests, materially for presentations, if you practice associating with devotees, you'll be able to associate with Krishna. So it is not that you're just want to associate with Krishna, but if you take the easier steps, if you start associating with devotees, start giving class or trying to listen to classes and doing kirtan with other devotees, then what you practice will go into what you apply. So another question that a lot of people bring up is that Krishna is not giving me any signs, right? So Krishna isn't showing me any mercy. He isn't showing me any partiality, anything like that. So one way to understand this is the proctor doesn't talk during the test. So this material life, this beginning part of our Krishna consciousness is a test, is to see how deep we are really dedicated to this. So if we need help during the test, then we didn't practice hard enough. Then being learned isn't always knowledgeable. So knowing all the scriptures is one thing, but applying it is what's important. So however little you know, if you're able to apply those things, you're in the right path. Then sacrifice isn't always painful, and it's different for everybody. So one thing that might work for someone else will not work for you. So this doesn't mean that you neglect japa or you neglect kirtan, but it means that if japa isn't immediately working for you, it means that you have to work harder than other people have to. Then all ignorance and knowledge comes from the Lord. So one common argument is that Krishna doesn't exist, or the Lord doesn't exist. And the best way to keep ourselves situated while facing this argument is that the ignorance that Krishna doesn't exist also comes from Krishna. So that's an oxymoron in itself. So if you are feeling that you're not feeling connected to Krishna, that is Krishna's energy acting upon you. So those are my takeaways from these section of verses. Thank you so much, devotees. Please give me your blessings, and hopefully you can look over my mistakes. Hare Krishna.
Jai Sudra. Yeah.
Thank you, Kirtan, for the very wonderful class, and more so on the application point of view. You have made the last 5 points that you made were excellent on how to apply. You started with talking about verses 6 through 9, how they are talking about engaging the senses rather than, experiencing through the senses is the best way to greet the Lord, using all the senses in the service of the Lord. And then very amazing point that you made. I like that was a definition of distress. Another viewpoint of distress is someone is said to be in distress, as we know, if they don't have money or something that we know, or is diseased. But distress is also, one can be said to be in distress when he or she does not even know what they are missing in life or missing something. That's also distress. And then many things, other things you said about liberation, how devotees practicing Krishna consciousness do not aspire to merge with the Lord in the Brahma Jyoti kind of thing, but and how to strengthen our relationships. Krishna is not saying that sever your relationships and cut them like that. That's rather he's saying how to strengthen them by putting Krishna in the center. And then very important points, all this, and how very easy to apply rather than doing the other way, severing or cutting the relationships. Very difficult it is. And how to know Krishna is how to understand Krishna. We may not understand Krishna right now, but we can gradually understand him through his energies. Eventually, we can understand him through understanding his energies, the potencies. And ultimately, what should be our desire and what should we ask is the opportunity to serve the Lord, Krishna. Basically ask him that please give us the opportunity. So, of course, there are so many wonderful other points. I'm just, because of time constraint, I'm just making it very short here. Thank you so much, Kirtan. That was wonderful class.
Thank you, Mataji, for this opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Kirtan, a brilliant presentation actually. So I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Great presentation.